Was hoping to have my normally I'm home by like 3 o'clock. Would have been a nice little hour to do a little polishing on the research here, but I think life will find a way, as my friend Ian Malcolm always said.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have bar? Can I at least have bar? Can I at least have bar?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
So good. I don't know what you've heard about me, but it's not true. I'm doing phenomenal. Having a great time every day of my life. And I'm curious to see if you're doing the same.
I'm doing all right. Today's been stressful, and I kind of made us late, so we don't have a ton of time. But I'm glad that you're doing all right. But yeah, I guess we should just crack into it, so you can go pick up the children's, right?
Yes.
Um, so today, with the trade deadlines getting closer, the NFL one just happened, but the trade deadlines for your fantasy leagues are getting closer. Playoffs are getting a little bit close. So we're gonna do some buy, stash, and sell for you today. Just a couple guys we think you should buy before the trade deadline. A couple guys we think you should stash for next year, and then a couple guys we think you should sell. So you want to take us to the first guy?
Yeah. So you want to start with some buys?
Yeah, we can do buys.
Yeah, my first buy is gonna sound a little funky, but I really like, and I know it sounds silly, but Marvin Harrison.
Mm,
I think that the Kyler experiment is kind of starting to tail off, compared to like the days where we were blaming Cliff Kingsbury for everything. And then now we're blaming Kyler for everything. And then it turns out like Jacoby Brissett was able to,
make this offense work.
is
Yeah.
his first name Jacoby?
Yeah.
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 Yes. Jacoby Brissett was able to, yeah, I think I saw a stat. It was like he gave Marvin Harrison his career high in receptions with six last
Yeah.
week.
Which is crazy.
And so, like, just, looking at keep trade cut like I do from time to time. Um, his value is taken a slight uptick recently,
Hmm.
but on the whole, he's been trending down since his initial rookie value. And I don't think we've seen the real Marvin Harrison
Yeah.
Jr. So I think it is a good time to get in and see what you can pay for him, get him off of somebody's squad. Right now, he is the wide receiver 31 on the year,
Hmm.
and Keep Trade Cut still has him valued at the wide receiver 16. But I like him better than a lot of guys ahead of him in general. Couple examples. I like him better than, yeah, Ted McMillan, Rasheed Rice. I like him better than Nico Collins. So he's right next to George Pickens. Lad McConkey's just a little bit ahead of him. I could see them rivaling in the future. So I think for me, he's a player that you might be able to get on a dip right now. So he's my first buy candidate.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, getting elite talent on the dip is always a good call. A lot of these people want their rookies to hit right away and don't have a lot of patience. Can't say that that hasn't been me a couple times. And so if you can take advantage of that, I agree. I think it's a more expensive one.
Yeah.
But I do think if you can accomplish it, you should do it because I mean he's kind of showing off what he was capable of these last few weeks. So with a more I don't want to say competent quarterback, but a definitely a guy that dials it down the
Traditional.
field more. Yeah, yeah. So, well, I'll keep it in the wide receiver room. I'm going to go with the current wide receiver 18. I don't know how much this one is for Dynasty in terms of future value, but Wan'Dale Robinson is looking pretty spicy for the playoffs and would cost you around a second, depending on if the team was playoff worthy or whatever. If it's a team that's on the way out, they might sell him to you for even less. But the Giants made no moves at wide receiver at the trade deadline, and obviously due to the Malik Neighbors injury, Juan Dale is the de facto wide receiver one for the Giants. And he's actually been pretty good. Like, I don't think he has the ceiling as some of these other wide receivers, but if you're in a deeper league or a flex play, he has that ability. I mean, he's had 5 games where he's over 11 points, and two of those are over 20. One of them was like 28 points this season. And I think he could be a strong flex play if you needed him to be, because he has some great matchups coming up during the playoffs. You look, he's got Chicago in week 10 this week, Detroit in week 12, New England in week 13, Washington in week 15. All of those are four-star ranked matchups if you look at Fantasy Pros matchup scheduler. Um, because I mean they're good teams, but they're teams that are allowing some points to wide receivers. Um, so it's a pivotal time of the year, and Jackson Dart is a guy that loves to throw. Like, he's gonna be in there. He's gonna be slinging it during these games. So I think if you're in a pinch and you need a flex player that you can play occasionally, who's relatively cheap, I think Rondell Robinson is a great buy right now.
Nice. I like that. I've thrown some shade at Robinson, and I don't know if I would necessarily buy him at the moment. Um, but no, I like what you're saying, and the fact that like he was really electric when Neighbors was on the field means
Hmm.
the future is bright, probably brighter
Hmm.
with him as a number two. Plus, you throw in that playoff push, and that's a win right there. So. I'll take it. I'll take it all day, every day. My next guy is gonna be Zach Charbonnet.
Okay.
So I'm into him pretty good right now. We've seen him where he's the lead back with some time missed from Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's also in a contract year, and the value on Charbonnet hasn't really been going up as much as I think it could if he gets that lead role and is the leader in that backfield come next year. I think there's a potential for that. Right now, he's not out of this world, running back 37, but he's missed some time. And the Seattle offense has been really doing well with the passing game, especially the tight end passing game. I think things can settle down in these coming weeks, and we might see Charbonnet start to establish himself and grow. So I think he's worth what it costs to get him right now.
Hmm.
He's right now at the I used to keep trade cut just to make myself feel like I'm not alone in my thoughts, but he's at the running back um 27. He's only 24 years old, and I think he has the potential to be had for like a mid second right now.
Hmm.
So I think that's worth it just as a dart throw. But I don't know, man. He's had some pop. Watch him plays. I mean, he's got good hands. He's not getting targeted very heavily, but
Hmm.
I think if he is the solidified lead back, that there's a lot of versatility. There's a lot of potential that he's shown in moments that they could really capitalize on long term.
Yeah, no, he's a guy I like a lot still. I'm with you. I would yeah, quickly sell a second for him. I feel like it's going to cost more. He's one of those guys that pe people tend to, aggregators have him a little lower than the general consensus
Sure.
opinion on him, it seems like. So that's worth noting. But yeah, I absolutely think, and like the whole Kenneth Walker thing, I don't know if they're going to re-sign him. Like you said, he's in a contract year. So maybe they roll with Charbonnet as the guy, and like you said, we've seen it, and it's been really successful. So, yeah, I like that. I think that's smart. I'll keep it in the running back room as well. I'm gonna
Nice.
go with Chase Brown. He's still been pretty good. This might not be the cheapest trade candidate. What I've looked at was like a late first, which is a bit pricey. But to me, it's the fact that there's still a chance that Burrow comes back towards the end of the year, like mid-December in a couple weeks.
Oh no.
And that's obviously going to help out Brown by opening up the field and making defenses focus on the Bengals' air attack. And Brown right now, he's the RB 14, but his points per game make him the RB 22, which is just annoying enough for people to maybe be over him and want to sell him, especially if their team is taking a dive right now. And he's still young enough to have value in the next year. He is 25 and probably, like I said, can be had for a late first. So it's not costing you that much. And I, for some reason, don't feel like the Bengals are going to go after the running back room in the draft, at least not highly. Um, but to me, again, I'm talking playoffs. This is the real reason you want him. His playoff schedule is incredibly juicy. From weeks 13 to 16, he plays Baltimore, who's 21st in rushing yards allowed, 26th in rushing touchdowns allowed. He plays Buffalo, who's 28th in yards allowed and 31st in touchdowns allowed. Then he plays Baltimore again, and then he plays Miami, who's 30th in yards and 22nd in touchdowns allowed. Again, all four of these are four-star matchups on Fantasy Pros. He does have a scarier matchup with Arizona in week 17, which could be a little tricky. But again, if Joe Burrow's back at that time and they're fighting for a playoff spot, that defense is going to have to open up, and there should be room for Brown under the middle anyway. And he has enough PPR value to still have a good game in week 17. So that's my main reason for wanting him. Is I'm looking at these playoffs. If you're making a playoff push and you need a running back, I think Chase Brown is a good one to try and go get.
Okay, I like that. You're right. You're gonna have to pay up for him, but I do think that there's a general vibe that he is not a long-term viable option. I don't know if that's justified or not, but some of these guys that didn't have high draft capital, weren't a big name necessarily coming into the NFL, sometimes that, it lessens their value.
Hmm.
And we do see these guys get leapfrogged,
For sure.
come draft day. So um,
I just
I
think.
think he's more obtainable is what I'm
Oh,
trying to
I
say.
hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I think I see that though, the non long-term viability, except I do see him being there next year. Just because again, the Bengals defense is atrocious. I just feel like they're going to attack the defensive side of ball and the offensive line early in
Yep,
the draft. So even if they take like a fifth round or a fourth round running back, I don't think he's immediately going to take Chase Brown's place unless he gets injured or something.
I feel you. I like that one. I really do. And man, that concludes that concludes the target to buy
Yeah.
candidates. Um, I guess we're getting into stashes.
Yeah, we can do stashes.
Stashies. Okay, I'm doing one. I don't know. You probably saw this coming a mile away if you're tracking my activity, but I'm going with Jimmy Horn. I
Mm.
like Jimmy Horn. For those of you who don't know, which could be some folks, he's only 44% rostered um, on Sleeper. He is a wide receiver for the Panthers, first year rookie out of Colorado, and he's a slim guy, 5'8", 174. But I liked him. I liked him at Colorado quite a bit. And this roster is kind of it's pretty wide open. We've got Ted McMillan who's killing it, but he's questionable right now. Xavier Legette hasn't really been moving the needle, and then Jalen Coker had a small setback, getting on the field. He's only been out there the past two games. Obviously, Hunter Renfrow was a one-hit wonder, and I just like the way this team is keeping Jimmy Horn involved. It hasn't been over the top as far as like snap percentages, but he does on the year. He's got 7 carries for 44 yards. So he's kind of getting involved in that, like, kind of that wild card. Gosh, what is the name? The gadget
Gadget.
type.
Yeah.
Yes, he's been gadgeting pretty hard, and his efficiency with the ball in his hand per completion per carry is it is nice. He's over 10 yards per catch, and he's at 6.3 per carry. So I think that he has a little bit of a footnote in the playbook that's going to increase his usage. And if we're dealing with injury on this team, and we're kind of have it's a bit of the Wild West with the Panthers. Their record is better than their team, and so I think they might try to push the issue and get him more involved um, in the offense. So I like him. I picked him up in a few places, and I'm just going to let him sit on my bench for now.
Yeah, I mean, he's a waiver ad in most places. You don't got to go out and get him anywhere really. And I do like him as well. I think he adds some versatility to that room, like you're saying. I'm a little worried about the Panthers offense in general, and him
Hmm.
kind of just being forgotten about when Ted's healthy. But that's why you stash him, just to see what happens, especially going into next year. And the Panthers are a little frisky, so they're going to be using anything they can to stay in the game until they're knocked out, which I don't see them as a playoff team, even though they just beat the Packers. But I could see him having a role for sure, and then we'll see going into next year. You went to Colorado. I'm gonna go to Colorado State and talk about
Ooh,
Torrey Horton. I know he's a bigger name.
nice.
He kind of popped, but I think people are getting scared because of the Shaheed trade, which I
Sure.
do agree with for this year. I think Shaheed coming in does take away a lot of the Torrey Horton deep stuff that he's been doing this year. But I think the Seahawks see Horton as a more complete wide receiver they can use everywhere. And Shaheed is the gadget deep guy that they're going to use. And Shaheed's great. He's going to take some pull. But I think when you look at next year, a triplet of JSN, Torrey Horton, and Raheed Shaheed looks really nice to me for Sam Darnold in 2026. It's pretty spicy. And if you look at Cooper Kupp, he has a $17.5 million cap hit in 2026. It's the fourth highest on the team, and he only has it carries an $8 million dead cap number, which makes him to me a strong potential cut candidate. Now, the Seahawks are pretty good on cap space in 2026, so they may not need to do that. But I think with Kupp's relative like lack of production, and I could still see them cut ties with Cup, and then Horton becomes either the two or at least the 2A or 2B, because I think that's what they want to do with Horton and Shaheed. Kind of use them to supplement JSN because JSN's just been incredible this year. Torrey Horton only has 11 fewer targets than Cooper Cup right now. And he's 7-1 in that statistic in the last two Seahawks games, beating him 7 targets to 1, 5 touchdowns to 1, and basically the same yards per reception this season. So I just see Horton kind of taking what they wanted from Cooper Cup this season and having a lot more explosive ability to get that done and being a viable flex play to wide receiver two next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an explosive passing game out there, and he's
Hmm.
been, especially recently, a pivotal part. So if you get in before people realize it's not a fluke, it's definitely a good little stash there. Definitely a possible target as well. You
Yeah,
know
you
what I
might have to
mean?
trade for him. He's probably on a roster, but
I like that. I like that quite a bit. I'm getting a little more popular in my second name here. I'm going with Theo Johnson.
okay.
So he's rostered in 82%. Yeah, I'm trying to sprinkle all the positions. I don't think I'm going to quarterback in today, but
I don't think I have a tight end, so I'm glad you hit one.
hey, there you go. Yeah, if just looking right now, he's kind of popping off. He had a tight end 3 week, a tight end 9 week, just had another touchdown for a top 12 week. And I think he's really heating up and getting a little bit of a bit of that extra target share with the Malik Neighbors injury. And it may feel like that is influencing the situation, but if you look back to last year as a rookie, he started off really slow, here and there getting targeted, but before being injured and missing the last 5 games of the year, he was getting in there to the 6 targets or more on several occasions, and snap counts upwards of greater than 85% consistently, and he was having a lot of success as a pass catcher. So coming back from injury, he's kind of established himself as the guy. The snap percentages are heavily in his favor, and now the targets are following. I think that he's the guy that's going to end up establishing himself as good enough to not need high level competition in future drafts for the Giants, who I think could probably use help elsewhere. So I look at him. He's another guy. If you're looking at playoffs, he's got a pretty soft schedule. Really, I mean, he's got Chicago, Green Bay, New England, Washington, and Minnesota are all pretty favorable matchups for the tight end position coming up. So he's a guy that I'm stashing. His value is pretty low right now. He's the tight end 17 as far as like the value chart gives him. So I think he can be had pretty easily with a low end wide receiver that you're probably not going to start anyway. Flashy name, maybe like a Rashad Bateman type guy or something. But I like Theo Johnson. I think he's looked good. I think he's starting to get a rapport with Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I think so too. And his athletic profile coming out of college was crazy. So we're hopefully seeing that kind of take shape now. And I like those matchups as well. And yeah, he's relatively cheap, and you can never, sometimes it's hard to find a tight end. So even if he's not weekly being a 10-point guy or whatever, if he can get you those highs, I think he's worth a shot. So I like that a lot. Theo Johnson, I have him in like two places, I think, and it's been nice. I'm gonna throw one out super, super quick because I think it's obvious. Stash Caleb Johnson. I've seen people drop
Oh,
him already
yeah.
in Dynasty. Crazy to me. Obvious reasons. His age, Jalen Warren's age, his draft capital. Just keep him. See what happens. It has been an awful rookie year, but just hang on to him. My actual one though is gonna be Chimere DK. DK to me has shown off some explosive ability so far this year, and he's been a bright spot on like a otherwise pretty terrible, forgettable Titans offense. And I have a feeling that the Titans are going to really, really invest in the offensive line and try to give Cam Ward the best chance of success in year two that they can. Because again, 2027 I say again, 2027 is supposedly a great quarterback draft class coming up. And I think if you're smart, the Titans would at least want to see if they really, really believe in Cam Ward. We've seen teams move on from number one overall picks pretty quickly, or at least first round draft picks pretty quickly. So, like getting that year two out of him, where it's easy to just blame everything else on what's going on with Ward right now. So, I think they're going to, but to me, Io Manor and DK have proven that they deserve a role in that development as well. DK has 33 targets to Calvin Ridley's 35, and he's only 20 behind Io Manor. I'm a bit surprised that Ridley's still even on this roster after the trade deadline, and I really don't see him as a Titan in 2026. The Titans have no issues with cap next year. They're projected to have like 108, so they don't need to cut anybody, but they can save another 13 million by moving on from Ridley. And it just seems to me like that's a foregone conclusion that they might as well do it. I do think there's a chance that the Titans try and bring in a big time playmaker for Ward, which could kind of hurt DK's value. But I think DK has proven that he deserves a role. So I think he's worth stashing and just hanging on to.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I've actually been pretty impressed with him. I do think he has a future, especially if Cam Ward's under center and they don't go scorched earth on this offense, which how could you go more deep on wide receivers given draft capital than to take two in the third like they did? So I
Yeah.
like that. I'm into it. Um, yeah, I don't know what to think about Jalen Warren. He's a free agent next year. He's 27. It feels like a retain a player
Hmm.
the Steelers would retain. But yeah, I do think Caleb Johnson obviously is definitely not ever going to be cheaper,
Hmm.
assuming that like he's got to eventually establish himself in a post Aaron Rodgers Steelers offense. So could be as soon as next year. I think
Hopefully
so.
for me.
We ready to sell some people?
Yeah, let's do
Okay, all right. These are a lot of unpopular opinions, and they're gonna zoom right at you.
it.
I'm going with Michael Pittman.
Okay.
Number one. And this is nothing against Michael Pittman. I like him. But Josh Downs and Alec Pierce are nearing in on like weekly double-digit targets, alternating. So they're establishing themselves. We got rid of the Adonai Mitchell confusion. And right now, Michael Pittman is the wide receiver six. So I don't think that that's a sustainable role for him, given the involvement that we're having with Tyler Warren, the superstar that Jonathan Taylor maintains himself to be, and the potential for Daniel Jones to kind of utilize a wide selection of options successfully going forward. So for me, if you're able to offload Pittman at his current peak, it's worth doing. That's personal opinion. If you bought him for like a second, with a third swap back and before the season, then good on you. But not everyone did that. A little shade at you, my friend. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is just cut and dry. The value right now, I think, isn't realistically sustainable. So if you can capitalize on it, if it's not a player you're necessarily relying on, or if you can get some future picks, and you're rebuilding, we're talking peak value for Pittman at the moment.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I should have waited to see if Daniel Jones was any good before I sold Pittman. Could have got at least just a second out of him. Uh, but yeah, I like your logic there. I think he's getting older and like this offense is peaking and like has peaked all year and he's starting to not be phased out, but it does seem like they're trying to become more uh versatile and all around on all their guys. So I don't know that he can sustain this. I'm with you. Um, I'll keep it in the wide receiver room. And there's a giant caveat here that in Dynasty specifically, I may not make this move depending on obviously how much I get. But Drake London is an interesting one to me. Um, Again, he's super young still. He's only 24. Um, And even though I have some concerns about Atlanta, he's just been so good on occasion that it'd be hard to let him go. But for redraft and depending on the value you get in Dynasty for the playoffs, it may be smart to shy away from him. He's the current wide receiver 7, and he's young. You can get a lot out of him, got a huge name value, but his schedule coming up is really, really tough. This is why it's more of a redraft thing. He's got the Colts this week, who are usually a good matchup, but they just got Sauce Gardner, so we'll see what happens there. Presumably, they're just going to say, "Hey, Sauce, stick to Drake London," because he's not going to know the defensive playbook yet. Carolina, he has, which is a surprisingly tough matchup for wide receivers, allowing the fifth least points to the position. Then he has the Jets in week 13. We'll see how they look without Gardner, but they're kind of middle in the road for points to wide receivers. Then he has the Seahawks, who are seventh in points, the Bucks, who are 10th in points, the Cardinals, who are ninth in points, and the Rams, who are tied for 10th in points. And with the inconsistency that the Atlanta offense has had, specifically Michael Penix, relying on London to have his big weeks during all of those good matchups is a little scary to me. I mean, he's been even inconsistent. I don't necessarily think it's his fault. He obviously can crush it, having 30-point weeks multiple times this year, but he's also had multiple times where he's below 10 points. So if he has one of those while you're in the middle of your playoff run, or your playoff push, that could be really, really scary. And he can still command great value even in a redraft because A, he's having a good year overall, and B, his name value is still there. I just think he's worth taking a look at seeing what you can get. He's a guy that I personally probably am not going to let go of. I'll probably hang on to him in a dynasty league. But I think if you can get the right value going into playoff season, especially in a redraft, I think he's worth it.
Nice. Yeah, that's just kind of a tough one for me.
Hmm.
In Dynasty to not have faith for the future, just
Yeah, for sure.
because I feel like it went down. He pulled the Marvin Harrison value before Marvin
Yeah.
Harrison
No, for
value.
sure. Yeah.
So we're this is the expectation. This is the initial expectation being realized, and
Hmm.
is it sustainable? I don't know. Is he on fire right now? Most definitely. So.
Yeah.
If you can parlay it into multiple pieces and that furthers your team, then that's probably a good move. But I'm going a different direction, man, and you're not gonna like this. Nobody's gonna like this, and that's fine. I'm with it. Um, I'm going George Pickens.
Okay.
So this is for me pretty simple. He's on a 1 year deal with Dallas. I do think that, I mean, he's going to be awesome, but I don't think the success he's had now has kind of priced him out of an extension with Dallas. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that he's might want to go be the number one somewhere. And I don't think that he's going to have an issue being number one. I just think he's not going to be on a Dallas offense potentially next year. And that alone makes it to where I don't see him as a top five wide receiver, his current status. Additionally, we've seen no touchdowns since the return of CeeDee Lamb and wide receiver middling in the teens and 20s since the return of CeeDee Lamb. And it's nothing against him. I just think that he's a hot name right now. They're about to come out against Las Vegas next week, and if as long as they can do better than the Broncos did, in Week 10 against Vegas. I think he might get an additional pop bump here for the
Hmm.
value. And this is purely value based. I think that George Pickens is a nice person to have on your roster, but do I think that you could probably net a pick that would become a better player? Yes, I do think that. So
Yeah,
pretty.
I agree. I mean, this is kind of also the realization of what some people thought Pickens would be, which you could also use that to your advantage because some people have always been really high on Pickens. So now they're like, oh, we're seeing him at his absolute peak, and this is what he is gonna be going forward. And I'm kind of with you, like CD being there, it's always gonna kind of cap him, and a lot of his points were scored when CD was hurt. Not that he's not been good with CD on the field, but I don't know. This, especially with how high powered the Dallas offense is currently, I think it's a good to get out if you can, because I think he'll never be more valuable.
Which is a compliment.
Yeah, yeah,
Congratulations ascending to this peak. It's impressive.
absolutely. All right, for my sell here, I'm gonna go with Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
Jacobs is currently the running back five in the league, which, some of you may be saying, oh, it'd be crazy to move on from a guy like that. And it might be. He has shown the ability to score points every week for the Packers. He has 10 touchdowns this year on the ground, which is great. But the Packers have not been consistent in running the ball. They've been really inconsistent. Jacobs is having his second worst yards per carry of his entire career at 3.8. And he's 27 years old. He's kind of hitting that peak where running backs are, and he's one of the guys on our list that has some of the most carries and touches of any of the guys that we do the running back report on. Um, and if you look at stuff, like he's having a good year, but it's really touchdown dependent. He's not had a single 100-yard rushing game this season, and he's being carried kind of off touchdowns. He scored at least one touchdown in every single game this year, and in three straight, he scored two, which really, really bumped up his scores. And some weeks he'll get like five catches, but most of the time it's like one or two. And then again, for playoff wise, from weeks 12 to 16, he plays Minnesota, who's 14th in points allowed to running backs, Detroit, who's fourth, at Detroit, who's fourth, Chicago, who's 20th, to be fair, at Denver, who's seventh, and then at Chicago. The reason the Chicago one scares me, it's just Green Bay and Chicago games always get weird, especially when Chicago is good. And so being at Chicago as well, kind of towards the end of the playoffs, um, it's a little scary. And then having Detroit and Denver in there as well, especially at Detroit, at Denver, could get a little rough for him. If he does make it to your championship with you, he does have a spicy Week 17 matchup against the Ravens to look forward to, where he could kind of help you win the championship. So if you want to look at that way, maybe you hang on to him. But to me, a guy who's not looked as explosive as he did last year, the Packers in general just haven't ran the ball as well, so it's not all on him. He's still a workhorse that gets plenty of opportunities, but it seems like the sun might be setting a little on Jacobs, and it might be the time to get out. Like, I still think he could be good next year, but it might
Yeah.
be the time to get his highest value that you can get for him.
Right. And we do this every year, every time, but
Yeah,
you talk about Barkley, Kamara, CMC, Derrick Henry, like sell before they age out, but like sometimes people hold on for dear life,
for
but
sure. Yeah.
I think that the Packers are telling us what they want to do, and I don't think it's sustainable on the Josh Jacobs front going forward. And to see his value being higher than like Kyron Williams is kind
Hmm.
of ridiculous. Chase Brown for sure. It's kind of silly that he's maintained such a high value at this advancing age. So I think, yeah, if you're a win now, you may just ride it out with them. But if you're
Hmm.
not, this makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, there you guys have it. Sorry if that was a little bit quicker. It was a little late today, but hopefully you enjoyed that. We will be back next week. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, y'all.
I took a lease out on your heart.